A story of technical brilliance, calculated revenge, and the downfall of an arrogant IT professional. Over the years, my job has painted quite the diverse canvas. I've always loved the master electrician work, the intricate dance of instrumentation, but building and maintaining networks, that's become something of a passion. There's something almost magical about all those blinking lights, the sophisticated testing tools, the precision of it all. And yes, there are lasers. One thing that never gets old is watching people's faces when they don't know me well, seeing this slightly weathered older guy in high visibility gear, work boots stained with glue and resin, walking into their pristine network cabinets. The confusion is priceless, and sometimes quite useful. Glue and I have had a complicated relationship since kindergarten, I'll admit. As an apprentice, I somehow managed to get half a bottle of blue conduit adhesive tangled in my hair. Don't ask. Tom was a junior government system administrator, working at the regional IT department when opportunity came knocking. When the IT manager position opened at a 2,000-student government high school, Tom was, let's say, encouraged to apply. You see, Tom had become something of a problem. In just 4 months since transferring in, Tom had managed to alienate the entire government IT team. You know the type, someone who feels compelled to comment on everything, believes they're the smartest person in every room, thinks they know it all, but operates at maybe 67% competency. And with a work ethic to match. The principal was so thrilled to have a government system administrator apply that they sweetened the deal, changing the job title from supervisor to manager just to entice him. The role came with its own office, 2 support staff, and more control over the school network than any previous supervisor had enjoyed. I heard later that Tom's IT director may have encouraged this title enhancement as part of moving him along. Tom finally had his own kingdom. It didn't take long for him to irritate the principal either, along with the administrative staff and most of the teachers. I'd worked with government IT for years before Tom appeared on the scene, knew everyone in the department, though I'd only gotten to know him in passing. He hadn't yet found a way to rub me the wrong way. We had 2 major projects scheduled for the high school about a year after Tom started there. First, replacing dozens of key door locks with a brand new, standalone network door access system that we would install and maintain. Second, upgrading all the room lighting to energy-efficient LED panels. Both jobs would happen during 2-week term breaks, on either side of a 10-week school term. I would be running both projects. During the planning phase for the door access network, Tom made it crystal clear that he expected to be trained on the new system and put in charge of it, since it was, after all, a network in his school. The principal made it equally clear whose school it actually was, and that Tom would stay well away from the standalone system since it had absolutely nothing to do with him. Tom was less than pleased about this arrangement. One Tuesday morning, just over 5 weeks since the door system had gone live, I was driving to a job site when my phone rang with the call that would set everything in motion. The high school called. They're having trouble with the new door system. Turning the car around, I couldn't decide what annoyed me more, that my sing-along to Blink 182 had been interrupted, or that I'd now miss out on fresh scones from the oven. At the system operator terminal in the administrative office, I listened as they explained 2 issues. Some teachers couldn't access certain doors that morning, and some doors that the admin staff had tried to modify weren't responding to changes. Standard user growing pains, I figured. We were 5 weeks into the 10-week term at this point. They'd investigated and discovered that several teachers' door access had been altered, removing some doors from their permissions. They'd corrected this, re-adding the doors, but the system wasn't pushing through the changes they were trying to make. Looking at their user login, they were absolutely right. They'd restored the door access correctly. But why wasn't the system updating? Logging in with admin credentials, I discovered something troubling. Apart from the hub in this office, the other 18 network hubs weren't responding. That was strange. Unlocking the cabinet, I found the fiber optic patch cable that connects to the other hubs, dangling in space. Very strange indeed. These connections require deliberate force to disconnect. They don't simply fall out. After reconnecting the patch cable and verifying the network was responding, I pushed the door changes through successfully. But questions remained. So I opened the system log. The changes to teacher access had been made by an administrative user at 5:33 p.m., and the hubs went offline shortly after. Strange timing, considering the admin staff finished at 4:30 p.m. The log also showed that someone who wasn't admin staff had entered this office at 5:08 p.m. I sat there, considering whether to question the administrative staff, but decided against it. I suspected Tom had been insinuating himself into this office over recent weeks, learning how the door program operated, maybe even securing a user login. If I raised a fuss, he might be able to explain away the teacher access changes with technical jargon. The disconnected patch cable could be dismissed as my own incompetence. As I contemplated this, the admin staff mentioned that Tom had been in earlier and overheard their system troubles. He made some comment about, "That's what happens when you let electricians manage networks." So he was still bitter about being excluded from this system. My mind ran through various scenarios, and I decided to let sleeping dogs lie. For now, 3 days later, Friday afternoon, another call about the high school's door system. The issues were nearly identical to the first incident, except only 4 hubs were offline this time. After reconnecting the patch cable at one of the affected hubs, I opened the system log again, to find it completely empty. The daily backup file had been deleted as well. Only my admin login could perform these actions. But how had he obtained those credentials? Checking that the secondary backup on an external drive remained intact, I loaded it onto my laptop and took a moment to process what I was seeing. This backup showed that the admin login had been used to make the teacher changes and delete the system log, all after administrative staff had left the previous day. The operator console PC had been provided by Tom, one of the school's assets. The government image was supposed to have been wiped clean so it couldn't connect to government networks. Perhaps Tom had installed a keylogger somewhere. I gave it a thorough inspection but found nothing, even checked for cameras. After changing the admin password, I left with Nick Cave playing in the car. That evening, with Mr. Cave and a glass of whiskey for company, I researched keyloggers, then went through my collection of spare parts and surveillance toys. It was time to play Secret Squirrel. Monday afternoon, I timed my arrival just as the administrative staff were leaving. "Just wanted to check some things on the system," I explained casually. They left me alone. I placed a small camera under the desk with a view of the PC tower's rear, another on a shelf watching the screen, and a third on top of a corner cupboard to monitor the entire room. Satisfied with my handiwork, I headed home. Thursday brought the same pattern: different teachers affected, different hubs offline, but identical methods. Admin login used to wipe logs and backups. I changed the admin password again, for appearances. Returning that afternoon to retrieve my camera footage, I finally understood his approach. The first incident, he'd used the user login to make changes, disconnected the patch cable, then installed a keylogger device on the keyboard's USB connection to the tower. It looked like an innocuous black USB adapter. He'd used this to capture my admin credentials, then wiped the system log and deleted backups to eliminate evidence of his card accessing the room. His methods were remarkably inefficient. His ego must have been truly extraordinary. The contempt he held for my abilities, viewing me as just an electrician, was almost insulting. I maintain systems and networks far more complex than this simple door access setup. Like the school's security system, for instance. Or similar access systems in much more sensitive facilities. Game on. Over the next 4 weeks, Tom and I performed this dance 4 more times. I heard all about him, suggesting that if a professional system administrator like himself ran the system, there wouldn't be these persistent issues. I never mentioned the logs or backups to anyone, just kept collecting video evidence and secondary backups. Through my association with Government ID, I'd learned quite a bit about their policies, and I wanted to gather more ammunition before I completely destroyed Tom's career. Using keyloggers on government assets was a serious violation. The next 2-week term break arrived, and we began replacing light fixtures. Straightforward work with a team of 8 electricians. Once I had them started, I went to work on my real project. I added relay cards to 6 specially selected security system expansion points, in 6 different buildings. These buildings housed the people who disliked Tom most intensely. I'd worked at this school long enough to know the politics. Relays are beautiful devices. Give me enough relays, timers, and contactors, and I can make your wildest electrical dreams reality. A relay is fundamentally just a switch you can operate remotely. Here's something most people don't know about data cables. They connect office data ports to patch panels and network racks through 8 individual wires, each with very specific functions. 4 wires typically carry data traffic, 2 for upload, 2 for download. Another pair provides power for devices like wireless access points. If you could route one specific pair of these 8 wires through, say, a relay, you could interrupt upload signals, download signals, or power delivery. Any of these would cause communication issues for connected computers. If you could activate these relays at strategic times for selected individuals, perhaps through a security system you had remote access to, you might introduce bizarre intermittent network faults. If you could accomplish this without obviously tampering with network cabinet patch panels, you'd have a method to create problems without leaving traces that IT diagnostics could follow. A competent IT professional would assume cable damage and test the connection. But what if the cable tested perfectly fine when they checked? It might appear to be a network system issue, something a competent system administrator should diagnose and resolve. The critical element was having a legitimate job as an electrician making building lighting modifications. You could disconnect power circuits, leaving network cabinets unpowered temporarily. You could remove data cables from patch panels without a system administrator noticing. You could run new cable lengths, terminate them into patch panels, create clean connections in ceiling spaces, then split off wire pairs to your relays. This could be accomplished over 2 days. Then you could begin activating the principal's relay on the 3rd day of the 2-week break. Tracking Tom's movements to ensure cables appeared normal during his testing would be simple enough. Once the principal was thoroughly frustrated with Tom's inability to resolve their issues, you could start the administrative manager's relay. The following day, you could target the head of English in another building, then the head of science in yet another. With Tom out of his office and you having legitimate reasons to be there for lighting work, you could conduct a thorough search and locate that USB keylogger. Standing in Tom's office, I photographed the keylogger among the clutter on his desk. It might have been hidden in a drawer previously. Then I called my contact, Tom's former supervisor, the regional director of government IT. I explained the door access system issues, showed him the videos, told him about the keylogger. He drove down immediately, took his own photographs, and contacted the principal. In the principal's office, using my laptop, I presented the videos documenting Tom's sabotage of the door system. The director examined the keylogger, and the situation was far worse than I'd imagined. They discovered not only my system information, but data from the school's accounting department, the director's department, and more. Tom had accumulated incriminating evidence from numerous government departments. He was completely and utterly finished. When Tom answered the summons to the principal's office, I couldn't suppress a smile. I know that's petty, but I'm only human. He had no explanations for the evidence. He tried claiming the keylogger wasn't his, but the director demolished that defense immediately. It contained too much information from systems only Tom could access. Then I showed him the videos. The look he gave me was absolutely priceless. He'd realized that I, a simple electrician, had orchestrated his downfall. It was glorious. He wasn't prosecuted. That would have created too much public attention. But Tom was flagged permanently. He would never again work in any government position anywhere in the country. Not as a janitor, not as a contractor on government projects. Since graduating university, he'd only ever worked in government. Sorry, private industry. He's your problem now. I did say something foolish, though. After Tom left the principal's office that day, the principal asked the director if they could send someone competent to address the school's network issues. Without thinking, I said, "No need. I'll fix that." I blamed the adrenaline from having too much fun. After explaining what I'd done to get Tom out of his office, I had to promise solemnly not to pull anything like this again. The principal didn't fully grasp my methods. but the director said I was like some evil MacGyver. I restored the network cabling to its proper configuration and packed up all my toys. Like, subscribe, and share.